Welcome back to From the Beginning, the Mayer Museum of Art at Randolph College. This segment deals with the significance of the decision by the Board of Trustees in 2007 to sell 4 works from the collection and the resulting partnership with the National Gallery in London.
When I arrived at Randolph College in the summer of 2013, I had a very difficult job laid on my desk, and that job was to finish the sales of art from the Mayer collection that had been approved several years earlier at the moment that we made the transition from being Randolph-Macon Women's College to being Randolph College, from being a women's college to being a co-ed college. And the trustees at the time of that decision in 2007, roughly 2007, had made a decision that in order to replenish the college's endowment, that they would sell 4 pieces of art from the permanent collection. They had to find art which was not encumbered as a part of a gift, for which there wasn't any restriction on our ability to sell the art. So we identified 4 pieces of art, the most famous of which, the most important of which, and the most valuable of which was Men of the Docks, a painting by George Bellows, which we had acquired in 1920. And my predecessor, John Klein, had already begun negotiations with the National Gallery in London, and I was asked to finish those negotiations. They were difficult. They were heartbreaking in certain ways. It was not easy to let such a beautiful, such a famous, such a identifying work of art leave the college. But the decision had been made, and that decision was not mine to make. Mine was to finish the negotiation. I'm really happy to say that we were able to not just receive a nice price for the sale of the painting, but to create a relationship with the National Gallery in London. Nick Penny, who was the director of the National Gallery at that time and the man with whom I negotiated, understood that this was a very difficult decision for the college to have made, and that it in no way reflected any desire on our part to diminish the role of art or the museum in the life of the college. He understood that at the same time that we sold the painting, we would need to be able to do important cultural work on the ground to assert and to establish that the museum and the collection still were central to who we are and who we will continue to be. And so he really reached out, and as a part of that sale agreement, we set up a relationship with the National Gallery, initially a 10-year arrangement, which, among other things, brings a speaker to the campus here, to Randolph College. Actually, the agreement was to do that 5 times in the 10 years, every other year for 10 years. So far, they've been very generous, and they've done that every year for us, so we've been very lucky. Perhaps, most interestingly for our students, every year we send students to the National Gallery in the summer to do internships. So we're now in our 4th or 5th summer of sending students to work in London in the National Gallery, and they've worked in the archive, in preservation, in curation, in fundraising and advancement. They've worked in the public relations department. So these students are really learning, having the opportunity to learn at the very highest level what a career in a museum looks like.
Even though Men of the Docks is no longer part of the Mayer Museum's collection, it truly was the foundational work in building a collection of American art. Because when the college and its supporters decided to buy that work from the 9th annual exhibition, they were really making a decision that they wanted the collection to focus on American art. And they set a very high bar because the standard of quality in that work is tremendously high. And works purchased since that time really had to measure up to the bellows. And I think you see that in the quality of this collection. Virtually every important movement in the American art world from the early federal period up through this contemporary period is represented in this collection, either in painting or prints or photographs. The collection is particularly strong, for example, in landscape painting. It has works that are representative of what are called the Hudson River School painters, with works like paintings by Thomas Cole, Asher B. Durand, John Kinzet, Thomas Moran. It has a lot of impressionist landscapes from the late 19th century. The collection is very strong in early modernism, and the collection in part is so strong, I think, because of the relationships that the pioneering art professors at Randolph-Macon Women's College were able to build with dealers and artists in New York City.